Welcome back, y'all, and happy Saturday. This is the final day that the transfer portal is open, and I believe that the players have until midnight tonight to enter into the portal or not. And at this point, it sounds like Tennessee could potentially lose one more player to the portal before today is over. We'll talk about that as we go through this video, but I just want to update you on the portal from top to bottom for Tennessee. How are we going to be looking at different position groups next season? Who are we expecting to come back? How many players do we need to target at each position? And maybe a few of the players that Tennessee has been targeting. And we'll also talk about the players that are leaving us, who I'm not going to bash because we have no idea if they wanted to stay at Tennessee, which I'm willing to bet most of them did, and they were asked to leave. To me, that's just a really bad look. If a player wanted to, play at Tennessee, they love this fan base, and then they're asked to leave by the staff, only to, go on social media and see a whole bunch of our fans bashing them. I'm not going to participate in that. I think that that's a really bad look. But with all that being said, please do make sure to like and subscribe. Let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, y'all, we'll be starting off with our defensive tackle room. Told you before, I felt like this was a spot that Tennessee definitely needed to go to the portal and add some bodies to. But we did get the news that Bryson Eason wants to return next season. Now, I think he needs a waiver for that. But I'm also curious as to what his agents are telling him that his draft stock is currently, and how much will that change as we get closer to the combine and things like that. I feel like playing at that 3 technique with prototype size, about 6'3", 6'4", 315 to 320 pounds, very twitchy, could maybe even place him in for you in some run situations. I think that his draft stock is going to go up, and he might not return even if he gets that waiver. So maybe should have put an asterisk next to his name. But if he does return, obviously that's going to help out with the depth at that position. And Tennessee doesn't need to press as much inside of the portal. All these other players here look really good. If you come all the way down to number 6, Marion Dow will be the first true freshman. I have an asterisk next to his name because if Bryson Eason does return and if Tennessee can add maybe one more player at this position, then I think that he can move on over to strong side defensive end and dedicate more time right there. But we have 3 more true freshmen that I think look really good, at that position that I do feel like can come in and at least rotate. That's the main thing. Coach G wants to rotate guys at that position as often as possible. Now, as far as what's going on inside of the portal for Tennessee, the kid Thompson from Wisconsin, it doesn't sound like he's trending towards Tennessee. We talked about this before. And also Suggs from LSU, doesn't sound like he's trending towards Tennessee. Really wanted Suggs. I think that he would be perfect for how we like to rotate in our guys up front because he's versatile enough that he could play at defensive tackle or strong side defensive end. But Tennessee's going to have to find at least one more body. I think even if Bryson Eason does return to this room, I would like to see us go out and target a bigger player like a big O or like a big E because I'm not really seeing that player here for Tennessee. Jackson Moore could maybe grow into that. David Hobbs could maybe grow into that. He's more of a 3 technique to me. And I would say that Wallace is one that also he's at about that size, but I just don't know if he's like a starting caliber player just yet. He's going to have to improve a lot over the course of the offseason for, at least for me, to be comfortable for him to be starting at that position. But I do think that Tennessee can go out and find that bigger body at this position, and we should be fine. We are going to have to lean on those true freshmen. They got to come in ready to rock and roll. But I think that we're going to be okay at this position. Now let's talk about the guard position. I felt like this was the second most important position for us to target inside of the portal. And we know that we missed out on Josh Thompson, the guard from Northwestern, who also could have played right tackle. And it sounds like LSU just outbid us. For Tennessee to allow that to happen, what it tells me is that we like what we have inside of this room. We like what we have on the offensive line, even at the tackle spot. So I do have Andre Carrick up at the top. He could return. I know that he wants to return. It also feels like since we didn't try to outbid LSU, that it's pretty, high probability that he will be returning. So him with Wendell Moy and Sham Umarov, those are 3 really good guards. I trust them for sure. I think that we would like to find a 4th one. I would love to say that it's Aiden Bustle. I got to see more from him, though. Hopefully he will get better throughout the offseason. Max Anderson, he's looked good as a true freshman. Gage Ginther, I moved from tackle to guard because we have so many tackle bodies that he might be better suited right here because to me, this is a more pressing need for us. And then we have Antonio Agumuro, who is the true freshman. Not too sold that he's going to be able to really help us as a true freshman, but you just never know. And it's not because he's not a good player, because I think he's a very good player. It's just tough to come in as a true freshman and play in this league. But I think that we've got pretty good depth here, so I'm not too concerned. We'll see what Tennessee does. If Tennessee does still go out and try to target another offensive lineman, especially at guard, then that tells us that Andre Carrick is probably not going to be able to return for us next season. Next is our tight end room. We all know that we're losing Holden Stays to the portal, but we're also losing Charlie Browder, who I think was a really good walk-on body probably just as good as a scholarship player, honestly, at that position, and Luke Schaus. So we are losing some depth there, but at the same time, sounds like Miles Kitsum is going to be coming back. That's probably a big part of the reason that those other players are leaving, especially Holden Stays. And then at number 2, Ethan Davis, we know that he can do a lot of really good things. He's a great athlete. He's got a beautiful skill set, but I was one of the people that stood up for him with not being as physical before. I'm going to tell you, man, the more that I've watched him, the more that I am concerned about that with him. You can tell that he closes his eyes before contact, kind of like turns his body. That's going to be a problem. You can't play like that inside of our system at tight end. So he's going to have to find a way to get a lot more physical. And then, two, he's been pretty injury prone. So knocking on wood right there, but we do have some really good underclassmen that are coming in too. Cole Harrison, he's going to be a redshirt freshman. A lot of folks forgot about him, but he has good size and he is more physical. He's going to have a good opportunity to actually play next season. And then we have Desan Brame as a true freshman, beautiful skill set. He can do it all. Jack Van Dorselier, exact same thing. So we still have really good depth at this position. I told y'all before that this season would be the deepest that it's been up under Coach Heupel. Said the same thing last season. And even with Holden Stays leaving and Charlie Browder leaving, it still is very deep. So no concerns here. There's no reason for us to hit the portal at this position. Now, let's talk about this running back room. We all knew that Dylan Sampson was going to be leaving us after this season. That's not the problem. The problem was Cam Selden and Khalifa Keith both leaving us from the transfer portal. That left us very shorthanded with scholarship bodies. We have Bishop coming back next season, who's a very good running back, but he's been very injury prone his first 2 seasons up in Knoxville. Then we have Peyton Lewis, who would be a second-year player. Looks like he might, if things continue to trend the way that they have, over the past couple of seasons, he might have to carry the bulk of the load. But we're going to need somebody that can spell him, that can rotate in with him. We're talking about 2 true freshmen, Justin Baker, D. Morris, both very, very good players, both very talented. Are they going to be ready as true freshmen to really come in and contribute? We don't know that for sure. I think that they can do it, but we don't know it for sure. So my whole point here, y'all, is I feel like you need to have at least 5 scholarship running backs on your roster, especially with the way that Tennessee likes to run. So if it was me, I would honestly just say, hey, look, Cam Selden, as long as the bridges aren't burnt right there, bring him back. It's very hard to find 6'2", 230, sub 4, 340 at that position. And we definitely had it with him. I don't know, how do you let a player like that go? If I'm Coach Heupel, I'm looking at Coach Simpson, I'm saying, hey, listen, dude, we got to rotate in 3 running backs every single game. There's no excuse, right? Like maybe once or twice something crazy happens, then yeah. But for the most part, 3 running backs need to be rotating in, and he's got to do a better job of that next season. I think that that's the main reason that Cam Selden left. And I don't know that we can get Selden back, but that would be my idea. I think that if we just brought him back, it would be the easiest transition because all these players already know Cam Selden, even those freshmen. They've talked to him, they've met him before. So, there's some continuity there. He knows our system, and I don't think that it's going to disrupt this room. I think that he could come in knowing that, hey, you will get at least rotated in, and the best running back will be the starting running back. We're going to pretty much start this season over. That's the way that I would try to play it. And if we don't do it that way, because I don't know how realistic of an option that is, but if it's not that way, then Tennessee's going to have to be very careful with the body that they go out and get. Because number one, you can't go overspend for a running back. You can't bring in someone that's going to be a surefire starter. They have to know their role and all that type of stuff. And they're going to have to fit the system. They're going to have to fit inside of this room. It's a lot of different things. So I don't know how quickly the movement would be right there, unless, again, it is with Cam Selden. I would expect that maybe after spring, we would try to add another running back out of the portal just to make sure that we can retain all of the players that we have currently and that no one can leave us in that spring window. All right, y'all, now it's time for the wide receivers. I know a lot of y'all wanted to talk about this. I have a lot to say right here. So number one, we lost 5 players from this position. That's more than any other position group on this team. We lost Squirrel White, Chaz Nimrod, Caleb Webb, Nathan Leacock, who I think was a really big one, and also Nate Spillman. So I have Chris Brazel up at the top as potentially returning, but there has been some rumblings with the insiders and in some other spots that he could be going into the transfer portal. He has until midnight to do that today. So you might be watching this and maybe he's already gone into the portal. I don't know that he will or that he won't. I just want to throw that out there because if he goes, man, Tennessee is in a horrible spot at this position. Mike Matthews is really good. I'm expecting a huge season from him. Braylon Staley, both of those guys, really good. Barely saw him this past season, right? That's a problem. I think that that's a big part of the reason that so many players are leaving. We're not rotating in guys. I don't care if they're not ready. If they're not ready, Coach Pope, that's on you. You know what I'm saying? That's on you. You're their coach. It's your job to get them ready. Like, they're not supposed to just come in ready. You got to get them ready. It's taken guys way too long to see the field as true freshmen in this system. And let me just try to tell y'all something here real quick. This whole cop-out thing, I don't know where this started from, but that this system is difficult to learn. This is one of the most basic and elementary systems from a route tree perspective that I've seen on this level. It's very basic. To say that it's really difficult to learn, I find that hard to believe. I think that that's from a lack of being able to teach. You should be able to teach a lot better, right? Look, like, I can go teach in 8th grade team this same route tree. I can go teach them that right now. I can go teach them probably every route that Tennessee runs in about a week. All the different formations and stuff. It's not hard. It's really not. So, I think that is a big part of the reason that we're seeing such a mass exodus at this position. Now, I do have Dayton Sneed on here too. Let me just try to get through this whole list. Dayton Sneed's on here with an asterisk next to his name because he's not a scholarship player, but we've seen him in some very limited moments do some nice things. Where we're at right now, y'all, is he's probably going to have to play next season. He's probably going to have to play a pretty major role because right behind him, we have true freshmen Travis Smith, Jackson, and Dotson. All three of those guys are ballers. They're going to have to come in as true freshmen and play. Now, again, it's funny because we wouldn't play the true freshmen before. Now we're in a position where we're going to have to do that. Absolutely have to do it. So, yeah, I'm hot. I'm heated at the wide receiver coach, but even more so, I think, with Coach Heupel, with this offensive scheme. Where are the wrinkles at? I've talked about this before. And I think that it might have been after that Oklahoma game. I don't remember. It was after one of these games. It might have been after Arkansas, where I say that what we're running right now, y'all, is it's like the base of an offense. It's like the trunk of a tree. You know how a tree trunk grows up and there's branches and then, there's stems and things that come off of it. We don't have any of that. All we have is a trunk. It is very, very basic. And it's not that we've had bad players at this position. It's that we're not putting them in good positions to make plays. It's so easy to stop, just straight up and down routes. And I'm going to show you the difference, too. That's a video that might be coming out for y'all later on today. With our 2022 offense compared to the 2024 offense, people are talking about missing goalish. I would say that, hell yeah, we miss goalish because it's not the same. There's a lot of things that are missing. There's no wrinkles. There's just nothing of substance to this offense. And really, I think that it goes to show how good the players actually have been to be productive at all inside of this system. So let's talk about what Tennessee can do inside of the transfer portal. Well, if you look at this, there's only 7 bodies here, really only 6 that are scholarship bodies, and then you've got 3 that are going to be true freshmen. So we're talking about really only 3 true bodies, potentially 3 if Chris Brazzell doesn't leave. So let's just say 2 impossible bodies at this position that we can trust now. Who are we going to go out and get inside of the portal? Well, I think that we need to add 2 to 3, bare minimum, 2 to 3, and they need to be some pretty good players. It's going to cost a whole lot of money. It's going to take away from what Tennessee could do with some other spots, which is a huge problem because you don't want to be overspending at the skill position. Again, I know a lot of people really think that it's about the talent. You could put Randy Moss inside of this system, and he's probably going to look just like Dante Thornton did. That's just what it is. That's just what it is because there's no creativity. Well, Randy Moss might be a really bad example, but y'all get what I'm saying. You could put an NFL wide receiver. Literally, you could go get Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman from the NFL right now. Put them in the offense right now with their NFL bodies, and they would probably be equally as productive, maybe slightly more than what we've seen. Just because it's a problem with the scheme, and I'm just curious. Who wants to come play in this offense at wide receiver now? Honestly speaking, there's not a lot of productivity. There's no real big play threats. I'm very angry, very, very angry at Coach Heupel for allowing the offense to get to this point. And I can only hope that he's going to have some sorts of changes, in mind. But I can tell you, if they want to go out and get, like a branch from USC or any of those types, they're going to have to say, hey, look, we can sit down and show you what we can do for you that's different from last season. You're going to have to have a very serious plan. So I'm not too hopeful right here, y'all. I'm not too hopeful at this spot. Chris Brazzell, I think, absolutely has to come back. Whatever Tennessee needs to do to bring him back at this point, we need to do it because at least he knows this system. And I don't think that we'd have to overpay too much. If Brazzell does come back, then at that point, I think Tennessee maybe could get away with only adding 1 more body out of the portal. You might still need 2. So we're talking about anywhere from 1 to probably 3 more bodies need to be added inside of this room before I feel comfortable with what we're going to have heading into next season. And it's a major issue, and it probably needs to be addressed in some way. I'm not calling for people's jobs, but there needs to be some sort of a sit down with Coach Heupel, with the entire offensive staff, on how do we get our passing game going in a much, much better way next season. All right, y'all. Last position group that we'll be talking about today are the linebackers. We did lose Jalen Smith and Caleb Perry, two players that played a lot for us last year. Caleb Perry, he's played a good amount since he's pretty much been up at Tennessee. I think that they're both two really good players. They did some really nice things, some very solid depth pieces for sure. But now what we're looking at next season is Arion Carter, Jeremiah Thielander, probably going to be your two starters. But we also have Edwin Spillman and then Jordan Burns. So Jordan Burns we didn't see much of this year, but I'm very hopeful with how he's going to play. Edwin Spillman looked good. So I feel good about our two deep at this position, honestly speaking, y'all. I really, really do. Now I would love to see AC and JT gain a little bit of weight, because we know that they came in as true freshmen. They gained too much weight. They were too slow. So they cut some weight. I think they played right around 230 pounds this season. I think that they looked a little bit better out in space, but sometimes at the point of contact, not quite strong enough. So I would love to see if maybe they could get up to about 235, maybe 240, and be able to maintain that speed. I love what they could bring to this team from that position, especially with all of the experience that they have over the past couple of seasons. Edwin Spillman, I think that he's looking really good. He might be, already solid with his size and everything. Maybe wants to add a little bit more weight, just continue to get faster. Not much, again, probably just about 5-ish pounds over the course of the off season. Jordan Burns is going to have to gain some more weight. He might need to gain about 15-ish pounds. But, man, you want to talk about speed and just moving around and looking real fluid. Only saw a few clips of him this season, but man, I think that just from a movement perspective, he looked better than any of our linebackers, not named Keenan Pili, but his movements and stuff was Keenan Pili level. Not to say that he's going to play like him, not to say that at the point of contact he's like him, but just his movements and, how he gets into his run fits and how he pursues the football and things like that, very, very similar. So he has a very high upside. After that, I'm not sure if Eli Purcell, who, I think he was a walk-on guy from Walford. I don't know if he has another year left. Would be good if he could find another year just for that depth, just because he's an older player. I think that we need a little bit of that, inside of the room. And he also, I think that he looked pretty good at that position. We also have Ben Bolton, who I think looks really good, just moving around and stuff. Might not be, I think that he's got a little ways to go, right? But I think that he could help us out and just add some depth. But outside of that, a whole bunch of true freshmen. Jaden Harmon, I think that he might have the best chance to play as a, traditional inside of the box sort of a linebacker. He's going to come in pretty close to prototype size. I think he'll probably come on campus at about, 225, 230 pounds, and he can really move. So I think that he could fight for some real playing time. Christian Gass, we all know about him, looks really good. He can also play Leo. He's definitely going to have to fill out some. Jaden Prelati, same thing with Christian Gass, but he can play on all three levels. So, once he kind of fills out and things, yeah, he's going to be one that you really want playing. Brendan Ames, I think that he's got some pretty good upside to him as well. We'll see. Can he come in and pick up the system? Does he look as athletic as the other players do? I think that would be more of my concern with him. But I know that he will pick it up for sure at some point. I just don't know how much he would contribute as a true freshman. The whole point here, though, y'all, is, yeah, we lost some bodies, but we're bringing in some tremendous, tremendous talent that I think is good enough to play as true freshmen. It will be a good amount of competition, I think, for all of these players. I would say Arion Carter included. He should have some real competition, too. We need to open up that competition. And if there's a true freshman that's better than AC, not saying that they will be, but if they are better, then let them play. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've got to start doing that from top to bottom with this team. But I'm not too concerned about this room. I don't think that we need to go add anybody's. I think that we're going to be perfectly fine, and we might be even better next season than we were this past season. But that's going to do it for this video. Those are my thoughts. Obviously, there's still several hours left in the day, so hopefully there's no changes for Tennessee as far as players leaving us. We need to definitely stay intact, especially at the wide receiver position. But please leave your thoughts with me down in the comments section. And as always, please do make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. We'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.